Northland schools have the lowest attendance rates post the COVID-19 lockdown, with one only getting about a quarter of its students back. 800,000 students were due back in class yesterday for the first full day of school. On average, attendance was 79%, and that's gone up 2% today. Secretary for Education Iona Holsted says iwi remain worried about the spread of coronavirus. There's also anxiety about catching the bus, and some families may have moved to find work.
I think the worst case that I've heard was around 29%. So there may be others, but that's the one that's come to my attention. And I know that in that particular school it's gone up to 50% today. So that's all good. It's gone up overall as an average by 1% today. And it's gone up about 4 or 5%, I think, for early learning.
What areas regionally have the worst attendance rates at the moment?
The far north.
Can you tell us a little about, what are you seeing there?
Oh, as I say, that's where the lowest occurred. And we had very, very low rates there during the level 3 alert period as well. Look, there's a range of reasons for that. As you will have heard, many iwi are really quite concerned about any form of infectious disease. They have very horrific stories that they've experienced from the 1918 flu. There's anxiety of that sort. There'll be anxiety about travel. A lot of those kids will travel by bus. So if they're a little bit more anxious, that adds another block in the way, if you like. In other cases, some of those families will have been disrupted. So, for example, forestry was impacted first by this disease in terms of workers, and a lot of forestry workers up the far north. So we're not even necessarily sure that all of those children will actually have stayed up there. So some of these things are going to have to play out over the next week or so.
So when you say the worst case scenario was 29% attendance, what other sort of numbers did you have from that area?
Oh, I just picked out the lowest number when I thought you'd be interested in that. So I can't give you all of the details. I can give that to you another time if you like. I can go through and get that. But
okay. So how are you going to get these students back? What's the plan?
Yeah. Look, we've spent the last week or so, talking a lot to principals about this, because for some principals they'll be fine. They'll know exactly what to do, and they'll have connections with those family in a way that will bring them back quicker than not. For others, they will need some help, and so we might, for example, connect them with iwi or with hapu. We might use, in South Auckland, for example, it may be that we'll connect them with Polynesian churches. We'll use a variety of contact points to encourage these families back. It is really important that our young people get back connected to school. Obviously, we're not going to be trying to do that immediately because we are conscious that some people have got anxieties, but we don't want to let it drag on either.
So the Minister has said he wants leniency, but as you say, the longer kids are away, the more likely they are to stay away. So how long is there going to be leniency for?
Well, there'll be leniency in the sense that we don't want to do more harm than good. But I would expect that in the next couple of weeks we'll be in a position to be a bit firmer about that.
How many kids do you think you have lost for good, whether they've gone off to work or bring in money to the household that may be struggling, or it's just too hard for them now?
Yeah, it's a really hard question. It's a really important question, Lisa. And it's one that I know is bothering principals too, because they're concerned particularly about those children who might have left to go to work. We did hear some stories about that happening during the lockdown phase. So literally they've been back at school 2 days. Teachers and principals will be assessing exactly that question, and we'll have a much better picture of that by the end of the week, beginning of next week.
Catching these kids up. NCEA timetables obviously have been pushed out, giving them a few extra weeks, but some principals are really concerned that some of their kids just will not be able to catch up. What can you do about that, especially for university entrance going to uni next year?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the most important thing is to attend to wellbeing at the moment. So, first of all, come and try and stay calm. The New Zealand Qualifications Authority is actually talking with Universities New Zealand as to whether or not there needs to be any changes to the requirements for UE this year in light of COVID. So that's an ongoing discussion, and I think that they've had quite productive engagement there.
So there is a possibility, because this is important, there is a possibility of a shift in the criteria. For example, one college in Wellington is asking for the normal requirements to be waived for university next year. So will there be some movement around that, do you think?
I don't think would be any suggestion of waiving anything at all. I think open entry was what she was suggesting.
Yes.
And I wouldn't expect that to be the discussion that NZQA is having, but it's possibly something you need to talk better with them about.
Have they given you any indication about whether there will be a shift in the criteria?
Well, that's for the universities. Universities New Zealand has to agree to that. So that's what New Zealand Qualifications Authority is discussing with Universities New Zealand is what, if anything, could or should be done.
In terms of catching the students up, how can you do that?
Yeah, well, there's a number of ways. I mean, first of all, NCA is very flexible. The second thing is that a huge number of kids actually end up with far more credits than they actually need to get NCA. So actually working through with students about what they actually need to do is the first thing. And teachers are familiar with doing that.
You say you're going to have a better picture of the situation nearer the end of the week or over the next few weeks. When you find out how many students have left to take up work, are you going to try and get those ones back?
That's a hard thing to do. Once they've left school, they've left school. I mean, it's not... We would hope that, it's not probably our priority because people are entitled to exercise the right to leave school at a certain age. And they do so every week. And often are children who we would rather not be leaving school at that time, but that is their right. So we'll be prioritising attention onto those children who are expected to be at school.
That was Iona Holsted, and as promised, the Ministry of Education did get in touch with those attendance numbers from today, and they show in Taitokoro, well, that was the lowest number of students returning at 72% on average. Highest attendance rates were Nelson, Marlborough and West Coast at 90%, the same rate as Otago and Southland. Auckland schools on average had 77% of their students in class today.